Hi again, everybody. Oh boy, I rushed through that one. I meant to actually show you guys a typical presentation. This one's actually from a long time ago. This show's not even around anymore. But so anyway, this short little video is an add-on to the first one. We'll deal with that a little bit. Just wanted to show you that basically it's not something that's like overly complicated. I'm not asking for something overly complicated is what I'm saying. Okay. So let me get to this one. It's about this show called The Cleveland Show. That was around like 10 years ago. Okay. And let's see here. So let's get to this. Okay. So basically, you had essentially this presented as a PowerPoint presentation. Okay. And what you had essentially is like the Potter's box. You essentially like define the issue. And this particular group felt that it was an unethical portrayal of the Black culture. And I'll be posting this too, just to give you an idea. It gave some background, which is important, present some context here. Um, you know, how it came about. It came from the show Family Guy. Um, Follows the misfortunes of Cleveland Brown, former Family Guy sidekick, as it says here. Then it showed a picture of the different characters and the people behind them. Actually, this is important because it also shows whose voices essentially are behind. And this is one of the important points made right here, is that they felt that this group felt that a white person doing a Black person's voice was unethical and maybe even racially charged. The idea there was to actually show that like how back up your own opinions by having other people, as I explained before, back up your opinions. Okay. And then they took the tack, as I talked before, about trying to show that like there was an opposing argument here. Perhaps considered imaginative and creative. But my idea here was to work against that here. So is it an ethical or unethical to use Caucasian actors to depict African American characters? So that was one of the big issues they raised. Okay, they felt it was unethical to use white actors to portray Black African American characters because they feel that not having African American characters or having African Americans with diverse and unique backgrounds can relate to the role. Not present a stereotype representation, and too often it leads to an insensitive portrayal to have a white actor do a black person's voice. And what they did was this is what I'm saying is they actually went to people to back up their own opinions. In this particular case, it was the New York Times. There was like one Black dude in each class, and he remembers how it was, and basically they quoted him, and they quoted how this guy who actually did the voice actually basically kind of stepped in his own fee here, basically by saying that like he based it on people he knew who showed some sort of bad Black stereotype of and as opposed to actually like being sensitive and real and getting as close to the truth as possible. He based his voice of Cleveland on a stereotype. Okay. So actually, as you can see here, what's the problem? Basically, so they use the empirical definition. So there actually is like the Potter's box in here. Okay. Identify your values. Okay. So these are, again, the personal gut check. So, pigeonholes the African American community. So this particular group had these personal feelings, again, what you're born with, what you're raised with, as to why they opposed the way this is being portrayed. Again, the hypersexualization of characters. And again, they used like other people's opinions to basically back that up. This particular group, lawprogressive.com. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, ethical principles. So they went with the golden mean, balance stereotypes with positive qualities of African Americans. So if you have basically Mike Henry's portrayal was actually based on a stereotype, which is considered bad. So that's not complying with the golden mean, applying the golden mean, because the golden mean may essentially be in the center of things. By going with a stereotype, you're going with the extreme representation of it. Okay. They also talked about the utilitarian theory. Okay. Potential outcome, Fox debut, and again, another source is what you do. You source it to back up your opinions. Fox debut of the Cleveland Show is nothing more than a desperate and stealth attempt to work against the improved international image of Black people. Okay. Again, how social contract was to be gained in this interaction. Okay, I'll just keep kind of going through it. Determine loyalties. Well, again, they have loyalties, advertisers' reputation. One thing to keep in mind also is that there's always some sort of money thing here. You know, when you determine loyalty, that's like probably one of the first things when you determine loyalty is like there's a loyalty to money, to making money. So they have to actually find a way to like, okay, so they have, we live in a capitalist society, as much as maybe people don't like it, that's what we do. So when they actually develop these programs and everything, part of the thinking is this going to make money? You know, so so you can argue all the things in the world and everything, but how does it, so, you know, what is the end game though? The end game in programming is not necessarily to be ethical, it's to actually make money. So, but how can maybe that thought work against the idea of making money? The idea that maybe the ethical problems are too much, that it works against that. And actually that's one of the usual things that comes up is that if it's, we've seen this with some programs on Fox News and everything, is that if the content is considered too sensitive and it's considered too offensive, it's the advertisers who back out first usually. Okay, so that's something to take in consideration when you when you try to determine loyalties. There is that, okay, so it's unethical and maybe it's making money right now, but is it going to ultimately end up doing that? And is it going to be something that's going to work well from a business standpoint when advertisers finally reject it? Make a decision. It's another thing, and this especially would not work now because we've seen this now. We've seen like people finally recognize that maybe the things people say and the things people do, comedians, that sort of thing, whatever. Actually, a lot of the things that have been said for a long time, reinforcement of stereotypes, people are recognizing now that's not good, and advertisers are backing out and that sort of thing. And so they're, you know, the ultimate decision to actually get rid of these things that actually reinforce bad stereotypes. So make a decision. Is unethical to use white actors to render black characters. Perpetuate stereotypes, does not hold ethical principles. Loyalties are everyone, but the populations it represents. And then that's another thing too, is that many African Americans would be offended by it, and perhaps there'd be some backlash against advertisers and the network. Okay, all right. Anyway, I wanted to go over that one more thing. I'm sorry I didn't go over it before. So anyway, I'll be adding this to also something for you to watch. And again, thanks very much, and please get those ideas in. Okay, thanks.